let's move on to another topic then.
Okay.
Um,
York.
what do we think of how Jed York is comporting himself?
Well, I think you should go first, Dad, because you know Jed York better than me. You were covering him when he first got the job, and I was in college. So, what do you think of the arc of his career since 2008 when he hired Mike Singletary?
Okay, a quickie.
Mm-hmm.
When he took over the team, he was not ready.
Right.
His father, who was never ready, I think wanted to get the hell out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
and he put the poor kid in charge. The kid was not ready.
28, yeah.
Yeah, he was just simply not mature enough.
Right.
He didn't have a background in football. He was not ready. Not his fault.
It was
He
like a
made-
Sweet 16 birthday present. Keep going.
Right. I love it.
You got a team.
You got it. Hey, you got a team. So he was not ready, and he made some moves. I remember it was the last game of the season. I was in the interview room, and we're waiting a little longer. All of a sudden, he comes in with Singletary. Singletary's wearing a suit. He's not wearing his football gear. And he announced that Singletary is now the full-time head coach starting next season. And even at the time, I wrote, what was the hurry? He had Singletary.
Right.
Could he interview one more person?
Right.
And I really like Singletary. But, Iggy, he was not a very good head coach.
Right.
And he followed with Tom Sula, who I always called the Butcher, because he always reminded me of the Butcher on Avenue M in Brooklyn, and then Chip Kelly, who was a complete loser.
Yeah.
So he made these impulsive, irresponsible, ignorant moves. Now he hires Lynch and Shanahan, and he did beautifully. He stayed away. He allowed these people to do their work. He was not a meddling owner. He did really well. So I was thinking, oh, it's a new Jed York. He's grown up. If I had a conversation with him, I might even kind of respect him, because I hadn't really respected him very much.
Kind of.
And then he does this stuff right now that we're talking about. He gives an extension when he didn't have to, way too early. He apparently cuts out Lynch, creates now murmurs and rumors around the team. I would say he's reverted. And it's like he never learned. That's how I feel.
Okay, I have a different interpretation. Let me tell you how I see it. You bring up Singletary. That was a bad moment. York's had a lot of bad moments. But the worst thing he ever did by far was run off Harbaugh. That was inexcusable. That was a winning coach. It was a winning situation. And they went through some dark years after that. They didn't have a replacement. They had to fire 3 coaches to find a new guy. If it weren't for nepotism, York would have been gone. Anyone who runs an organization like that and gets rid of a winner like that gets fired. So he got a second chance that most people wouldn't get. And he knows it. Okay? What happened with Harbaugh was almost like he took your advice to heart. He wanted to be tougher on Harbaugh. He didn't just give Harbaugh an extension because he won some games, like Singletary did. Harbaugh went to the Super Bowl and lost in the second year. I mean, similar to Shanahan, right? And Harbaugh came trying to strike while the iron was hot, just like Shanahan, and said, you're winning for the first time ever. Give me some credit. We didn't get it all the way, but come on. Give me an extension. And you remember what York said on the record. We don't hang banners for NFC championships in San Francisco. We have higher standards. No. And that was the end of the relationship with Harbaugh. He thought he could hold leverage over Harbaugh. Harbaugh it was irreparable after that. And we saw it. It was just a poison relationship. And York knows what that can do to an organization. He knows he can't do that again. And I'm sure Eddie told him, son, you cannot alienate Kyle Shanahan the way you alienated Harbaugh, because no one gets 2 chances, even you. If you do to Kyle what you did to Harbaugh, no one will forgive you. None of the fans, and even your mom would have to reassign you. I think he knows he doesn't get a 3rd chance. If he messes it up with Kyle, he's out, and he's being very careful.
I love what you said, Iggy. I would take issue with one small detail.
Okay.
You said you think Eddie told him. How do you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, really.
Good point.
How do we really know
that Eddie cares?
Or that how close they are?
True.
I think Eddie cares.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my gut feeling, based on nothing. My gut feeling is Jed does not reach out to Eddie very often. That Eddie loves Jed.
Right.
It's his sister's son. Eddie would give all the information and advice he could give. But the only time you hear about it from Jed is my Uncle Eddie,
right.
and he kind of uses that relationship when he's in trouble.
Yes.
He for public relations. I don't honestly, in my gut, I don't think um, Jed reaches out to Eddie that much. And another big flaw that he had, the one he reached out to was Balky. He leaned on Balky
Yep.
all those years.
Yep.
And I think now, of course, it was much worse to get rid of Harbaugh, but to lean on that schnook
Yes.
all of those years,
Yes.
again, it's weakness, lack of expertise, and lack of knowing who was good.
That's right. And a lack of contacts. He was clinging to Trent Baalke like a buoy in the ocean, like a life
Very,
preserver, because he didn't know anyone else. And Baalke
very,
probably taught him football, right? Had been in the organization forever since the guy was a young man, probably took him into his office, I'm guessing, and really had Jed York beholden to him. How do you fire your mentor?
and your only contact to the
Your
league.
only contact to the league. I'm telling you, he got lucky with Shanahan. Shanahan was going to interview with the Broncos, and they didn't want him. No one wanted to wait for him. The Rams hired Sean McVay. The Broncos hired Vance Joseph. Shanahan was going deep into the Super Bowl, and he wasn't going to be able to put together an assistant coaching staff, and teams usually don't wait for those guys. Plus, he was young. So that he fell into the Niners' lap. How often is York going to get that lucky again? He knows he can't pull it off. He hired Chip Kelly. He hired Jim Tom
Well,
Sula.
you need to
He
know,
knows he
right?
did that. I mean, if they get rid of Kyle Shanahan, they could be back at the Dennis Erickson level real fast, and that's something the Yorks know all about.